hey, thanks for choosing door number 3. Welcome to Deviant Lounge. Today's guest is pretty cool. I met him on X, formerly Twitter, and he runs a podcast network. Not just a podcast, he runs a daily podcast called The Stupid History Minute, and he invited me to be on it last month. There's an episode on the stupid history of concert posters. That's a me. Anyway, Kev and I sat down like I do with a lot of podcasters I like, and we had a long conversation that I somehow had to chop down into a digestible podcast. And I think I did a pretty good job. One thing I did want to mention, though, were the other people in his network. So the network is made up of other podcasts, and those podcasters include The Beeb, Mama D, St. Joe, Cindy from Hypno Wellness, Salivy G, the guys from a podcast called The Story Of, and someone I know from before named Curvin from a show called This Week Explained. So all of those people are part of Keb's podcast network. And I'm not sure if you've ever tried to organize anything, but organizing a group of podcasters is no joke. And it turns out Keb got his work ethic from his dad. So on top of that, he's also a comedian, which might be one of the things, humor that is, that helped him deal with a recent medical, I'm going to call it emergency. So all that and much more here on Deviant Lounge. That's really fascinating, though, the writing part. So you kind of did the writing like just out of passion, it sounds like, right? I mean, you said you weren't getting paid at first and you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I would just, at the time, this was before everybody had a notes thing on their phone.
Yeah.
So I'd carry around just like one of those very small, pads of paper and jot down, what I see. I'm not really a guy to sit down and like write a script. I'll write the idea, and then I'll try it out. That's what open mics are for. But I would think of these things specifically for him. Like he was a tall guy with a huge belly and very skinny legs. And so one night we were driving to one of his gigs, and I was like, you know what you should do? Right before you get on stage, you should look, or right when you get on stage, you look out there, don't say anything, just look at everybody and go, I know what you're thinking, when's the baby due? And that killed. And so I really just got tired of people laughing at my jokes that somebody else was telling. And one night I had some liquid courage, and we were at a one of his gigs, and somebody didn't show.
Oh boy.
And there.
Oh boy.
So we needed 5 minutes. He's like, you got 5 minutes? I'm like, no.
I got a good story about that guy's joke, I could tell you.
Yeah, and I told some just some stories that had happened to me, and just the way that once I got going, like once I forgot where I was, and you can't, I mean, you've been on stage, you can only see the first 2 rows. You can't see everybody.
Right. Yeah, you assume, but I've been to shitty gigs, and there really aren't that many people out there. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. It's for me. I'm playing for fun. Just don't look like an ass. Wow, That's amazing, dude. How many liquid courage? But you weren't drunk, right? So
no, that's like, I've learned that's a big no, is to get up there hammered.
Yeah. I didn't assume you were, but I mean, like you probably just had a drink or whatever enough. Because I'm like, because you had to be sober enough to do it. But just over the hump, because I don't think most people would ever do that. Like, it's not a 80-20% rule. It's a, no percent. Like, nobody would get on stage. So I always found that fascinating because, I'm a dude. I'm like, hey, I could do anything. Oh, except that. No, don't give me the mic. Don't expect, I'll get up in front of a mic and tell somebody something or tell a story or, present some shit at work. But in front of a crowd that I know is there to laugh, oh, there's no fucking way, dude. I think they're just going to laugh at me. Which kind of brings up that really cool point. Do you think all comics should have their own writers, like a buddy or a bouncing off partner?
Not to start. I think writing is part of the gig. I think, kind of like your singer-songwriter.
Okay, yeah, that's a good analogy.
Guys. But I think writing's part of the gig. Now you get to the level to where you're touring and all this, but I know a lot of guys like that. Not the huge guys, but what I call the mid majors. The guys that do the clubs.
Sure.
Not the arenas or not the
like the support guys who support the touring guys.
Well, just like
but when they're on their own.
You know who is the highest paid comedian in the world?
Like actually just the comedian that hasn't flipped to acting, maybe?
No.
Generally?
I mean, he's a household name. But he only does clubs. He doesn't do arenas. He does theaters, but he will not do arenas.
Oh, is it Chappelle?
No, it's Jay Leno.
No kidding.
And he does gigs all the time. Even when he was on the Tonight Show, he did a gig at the Comedy Store in L.A. every Sunday night.
I've heard that about him. And
wasn't
he at some weird random spot when he got beat up a little while ago too?
Yeah.
Like he was gigging. Like he was just out gigging.
Yeah, he's doing clubs.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And the bigger guys who were going to quit, like Ron White, he came here and did the club, not the arena downtown, but the club. Here, which is, I mean, we have a room that's about 5 minutes from my house that's by design.
Do you think they do that just to see if they still actually got it, after still have what they need?
Yeah, and a lot of them right now are doing it. Howie Mandel, I saw him in the same room with Ron White, 300-seat room.
Fantastic.
Maybe, at capacity. So...
it reminds me of that one documentary from 10 or 15 years ago called The Comedians. It's like Seinfeld and all them New York guys. Mm-hmm. And they all like to sneak out. They all really like what they call the craft. I don't want to say it without framing it that way because I don't want to pretend like I'm one of y'all. But there definitely seems to be some kind of dividing line, and it sounds very similar to the music world where there are people who are serious about learning their instruments and doing it well who don't give a fuck if people ever come because they just really want to be good at that. And then there are others who are just trying to like be known for that.
And to go back to your original question about the writing, in my opinion, you can go anywhere and hear people talk about Trump versus Biden, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But where it really gets good and where you really get people who want to see you is two things. Number one, write about stuff that's happened in your life that people maybe can relate to. That might be happening in their life. Like when I started, it was a lot about, being married for the first time, young and married and all this.
Yeah.
And I went to religious school for 9 years. So it was a lot of that.
Dang, dude, like Catholic school?
It was Episcopalian.
What is the Episcopalian exactly? Is it Catholic
it's like Catholic light? It's Catholic light.
Okay, cool.
It's diet Catholic.
I remember I took some acid in front of a Episcopal church one night in Sacramento, and I was just staring at the sign. I'm like, man, you could perfectly rearrange these letters to say Pepsi Cola.
Yeah, and the biggest difference is they let their priests get married, so they leave the little boys alone.
That's a valid proposal.
Yeah. So, but it's like if you get sent to the principal's office at Episcopalian school, it's like whatever. But if you get sent to the father's office,
hell no.
Shit. This is back when they would hit you with the paddle,
For sure. Okay. Well, yeah.
Write about stuff's happened to you that people can relate to.
Yeah.
They can, and also, and the big epiphany for me was probably about. It was about election time 2016.
Sure.
That everybody was just at each other's throats. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to make people smile every day, or I'm going to say a joke that makes me laugh. And when I started doing that, when I started trying stop writing for other people, write what you think is funny. I'm in sales. So the number one rule of sales is if you don't believe in it, you'll never be able to sell it.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the joke. It's the same thing that singer-songwriters, when they write a song, it's got to mean something to them. They're just not writing the song to write the song.
Yep.
It's got to mean something to them. So, and then make a deal with yourself. Like my deal with myself is I'm going to try to write a new joke every day. Are they all going to be funny? No, they're funny to me, but I've got a sick and warped sense of humor, So my sense of humor is everything, because I take zero seriously, and I laugh when I look at like Twitter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And these people are like, I'm leaving Twitter, I'm going to Blue Sky. And all I just heard was, I lost, so I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah, right.
And these guys are like, I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and they're like, yeah, I'm trying to get off Twitter. Like that, but yet they get on there and complain about what's going on. And I'll just sit back and be like, hey man, I thought you were getting off Twitter.
Dude, I say that, but I mean it like I'm quitting weed or something. I'm like, yeah, I need to get off the Twitter. But of course I'm not. I love it. Twitter, like me, is like a video game. You just go in there and you get your little dopamine rush or whatever, the adrenaline rush when you get into fights with people, and then it's just a fuckery. It's just exactly what it appears to be. So
Twitter is a first-class ticket to Fucktown.
Oh,
that's
man.
exactly what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And I absolutely love it. I'm in for the ride because I just sit back and laugh. I used to like getting like arguments with people, and they block me, and I'd wear that at like a badge of honor, But as you get, because I've been on Twitter ever since there was a Twitter, and but as you get kind of older, you're just like, yeah, whatever. I mean,
yeah. Because you could start to detect a certain type. There are some people who won't let go. They can't release the prana, and they fucking just and no matter what you say, they got to be the last person. And I'm like, oh well, okay, you're the last person. And I'm just gonna mute this whole conversation and get on with my day because I got a couple other things to do. So I mean, that's Twitter. Twitter just wacky. I like it though because that's how I met you and your podcast network and all that.
Sure.
I'm hearing a couple of recurring themes though. So you're really passionate about stuff, and when you are, you'll do it for free, like you wrote for your friend for free. You started Unfiltered Podcast Studios for free, right? That's and you do your podcast for free, which is a daily occurrence. So passion, repetition sounds like a thing because you write a joke a day. That's really impressive. That's a great work ethic.
Yeah. It's fun. I am a creature of schedule. I keep myself so busy that it put me in the hospital for a week last February.
What, like a nervous breakdown or something with your heart? What happened, man?
I run the sales.
You don't have to talk about this, by the way.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No. I've been quite open about it.
Sweet.
I had what they call sepsis, which is a blood infection.
Oh shit! My roommate died of that.
Yeah, and so I like for a week was throwing up, not being able to eat, not being able to keep like water down. Like I was so dehydrated, I would drink water knowing I was going to throw it up. And then finally my wife's like, okay, there's one of two things that we can do. We can call, or we can go to the emergency room, or we can call a lawyer. And I was like, okay.
Damn.
And I was like, what's the lawyer's number? No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, so we went to the emergency room, and the guy's like, yeah, you're like way dehydrated. You have sepsis, so I'm going to start antibiotics, but I have to admit you. And they'll probably only keep you overnight. Yeah, I was there a week. And so it was an eye-opening thing. I didn't know I was diabetic. I'd never had problems with sugar before or blood pressure or anything like that. And they're just like, half of them chalked it up to, hey, you're in your late 40s, and all that. But it's kind of a wake-up call. Doctor's like, hey, dude, you need to slow down. My wife's like, this dude's moving from 6:45 in the morning to sometimes midnight,
Yeah, right.
And so I'm a creature of schedule. I don't know anybody that keeps a schedule like me. From 6:45 in the morning, I'm leaving, take her to school. I'm off to, my day job. I work that until 5, 6 o'clock at night. Then I'm off to whatever I do at night. And so,
which is a lot because like we talked yesterday, and you're like, oh, here's my days I do that, and I'm like, oh, cool, he's on schedule. Well, I like working with people who have a schedule because I know that you will be on time.
Sure.
How did you become that way? Is that your personality? Were you that way as a kid, or were you in the military? Like, how did you just become a schedule-oriented creative?
I was not in the military. My father was.
Okay.
And so my father was the driest sense of humor guy, never crack a smile. Just when you think of a military father, my dad would be in the dictionary next to what military father would be. But he was a cool dude, and we were incredibly close. And but he said, when you are late somewhere, all you are telling somebody is fuck you. And so I've always been a punctual person. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I'd go out on dates, and the parents are like, "You're never late, are you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm never late." And something is incredibly wrong if I'm late. And then even if I'm running late, like traffic or whatever, I'll call whoever I'm going to see, and I'll be like, "Hey, look, and the joke in my house is if Kev calls, that gets him off the hook, because when you're like this, and you not only do I make myself on time all the time, the people that are in my circle here locally, I make them be on time."
Sounds like you got some really good, I'll call it core programming from your dad. When they drop those like little phrases like that, whatever they might be, everyone's got their own different ones, but things like that really help you succeed in life. Apparently, you kept you organized, kept you involved with something you're passionate about, kept you consistent, and mostly just generous. You're really generous, it sounds like, with your time, your organizing, and like Beeb said, I mean, it takes at least two people to get the idea off the ground. So with you guys organizing Unfiltered studios like that, it just, I don't know, it says a lot about your character that you guys are doing that without asking for money. You don't have delusions of grandeur. You're super well grounded. So I think anybody that's a podcaster that wants to be involved with other cool podcasters should look you guys up for sure.
Here's this is my core. Got it from my dad, but when I said it to Beebs, he thoroughly agreed. And this is us to kind of a core, and I kind of live my life by this. If you help others get what they want, you will not have to worry about what you want.
Yeah, that's very zen.
It will come to you.
It will.
And it has. And the best things in life, if you're looking for things specifically, the best things will come to you when you're not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worry about you.
If you chase it won't come. You have to, like you said, just go on being a good person, putting it out there in the world, helping people in the way you'd like to be helped, without expectations. Because I think a lot of people get stuck on that part. They think that the help is supposed to come back from the same source that they gave it to. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Help everybody you can, and then it'll all eventually start pouring back in. But I think the universe, let's call it, also can tell if you're faking it, if you're just doing it for transactional benefit, So it doesn't work quite that way either. And I could tell that's kind of why I like following you guys from Unfiltered Studios on Twitter or X, is because I've followed you now for like a year, and you're all normal. Nobody's gotten crazy with the election, left or right. Nobody, even the shows that are in the political category aren't into politics in that sense. They're not hot talk radio. They're not sensationalist shit. They're just, talking about the real impact of elections and politics. So I've always thought you guys got a really good crew, and
we got a good group.
Yeah,
and it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger here fairly soon.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to that too, and keep giving Good Pods the business with all their Q&A sessions.
Yeah,
so
we'll do.
That's awesome, man. Is there anybody else you want to shout out to?
Everybody. Well, number one, thank you for having me. We have some really, really, really good people over at unfpocket.com. Some really good shows, really, really great put together, really great edited, very good sound quality, and very good content. And they can all be found at unfpod.com. And you go through there. There's a lot of them, but there's something for everybody if you're looking for a new show to listen to or anything like that. Or if you're a podcaster and you want to have a chat, I mean, one of the four of us, we'll talk with you and see if we can get you some more exposure. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. You better be good though. Don't go fucking with his time if you're not any good. Go listen to those podcasts first, and if you think your podcast is as good as any of the Unfiltered Studio podcasts, then maybe hit them up. Don't hit them up expecting them to carry your weight for you. And
definitely not gonna happen.
No, you could tell. I could just tell. Like it's no nonsense. Kev's got a schedule. You got to get on the bus when the bus comes, or come back tomorrow.
Cool, man.
Thanks, brother.
We want information. Who are you? The new number 2. Who is number 1? You are number 6. another number. I am a free man.